which is the right program for me? Are they all the same? Am I going to have the same experience? Am I going to learn the same things? Although there is some foundational knowledge that every teacher training should introduce you, it absolutely matters every school and style of yoga. What type of yoga would you like to learn to teach? So starting from there, I do firmly believe that whatever path you take is the right one for you at that moment. So you're thinking about taking a yoga teacher training, and one of the main questions you have is, which is the right program for me? Are they all the same? Am I going to have the same experience? Am I going to learn the same things? Does the teacher matter? Does the location matter? Does the school matter? Do the hours matter? And I'm here to both help you and also tell you that yes, it absolutely does matter. And at the same time, you are meant to experience your own unique journey, and regardless of which program or school you choose, I believe it's going to be the right choice for you. My name is Matea, and I'm the founder of Hariom Yoga and Ayurveda School, and also Yoga Ashram Costa Rica, where you find me right now on our beautiful yoga deck at sunset time in Costa Rica. So, first of all, finding the right program can be very overwhelming because there's so much information, luckily, right now readily available for you online, whether you're Googling it, whether you're scrolling through social media, whether you are in different kind of forums or chat groups or reading reviews. But that also means there is so much to choose from, it can become very overwhelming. So I'm here to maybe give you a little bit of guidance and also share my experience both as a student of yoga who has taken multiple 200-hour teacher trainings, 300-hour teacher training in India, where there's so many schools to choose from, aerial yoga teacher training, stand-up paddleboard yoga teacher training, and so on and so forth, not to list all of my credentials right now. And besides being a yoga student, I'm also a yoga teacher and a founder of a yoga school, which has already hosted yoga teacher trainings for almost a decade, 9 years to be exact, which is a very yogic number. And if you don't know why, don't worry about it. If you come to our training, we will talk about it. And I have heard so many questions. I already know so much about what kind of thoughts and doubts and questions our students may have before choosing a teacher training, and I want to address some of them. So first of all, is every training the same? That's a very common question. Yes, we do have some general guidelines, especially if a school is Yoga Alliance certified. That is also a topic that most trainings should talk about. Whether a yoga teacher training is Yoga Alliance certified or not, they might be familiar with Yoga Alliance guidelines and might want to meet them. So Yoga Alliance teaches us about the 100-hour, 200-hour, 300-hour, 500-hour programs. They also give some guidelines on what kind of modules should your training consist of and approximately how many hours each module should consist of as well. So we get some general guidelines there on every training should consist of teaching practicum, teaching sequencing. So Yoga Alliance introduces some general guidelines such as teaching methodology and practicum, yoga history, philosophy. These days they're calling it yoga humanities, ethics of yoga, of course, anatomy and physiology, and so on. So most teacher trainings should consist of these basics, which teach you what are asanas, how to sequence them together, what are different kind of schools and styles of yoga, and if you want to sequence your specific type of yoga class, how you should do that. What is the history of yoga? Where does it actually come from? Why do we say that yoga is, for example, 5,000 years old? Is yoga really originating from India? What are the Vedic texts? If we introduce different other yogic aligned practices such as Ayurveda, which we have in our trainings, why do we say that yoga and Ayurveda are, for example, sister sciences? We talk about anatomy and physiology, and most trainings will include some basics on that, understanding the primary bodily systems, the skeletal system, the muscular system, especially the styles of yoga that are very therapeutically aligned or just alignment based. Will specifically focus on those. Then we have the yoga ethics, the seat of a teacher, some introduction into the business aspect of yoga, and there might be also some free space to introduce other practices there. If you are a yogi, you also know that yoga asana is only one of the limbs of yoga, which is something that we study in yoga history and philosophy. So there are other limbs including different type of meditation practices, pranayama or breath work and so on. And most yoga teacher training should include both practical aspects, so practicing different styles of meditation, breathing, exercises, and so on. And it should also include some theory and understanding behind why we're doing those practices and how we're doing them. So these are kind of the general guidelines, but every school, including the different styles of yoga, meaning whether it's a vinyasa-based teacher training, whether it's hatha-based, whether it's yin-based, whether it's Iyengar-based, whether it's Ashtanga-based, and so on, will approach these practices in their own unique way and maybe giving it their own touch depending on the school and style of yoga that they're coming from. And then we also have different niches or different directions within the teacher training that might also introduce other topics. For example, in our teacher training, we always introduce yoga alongside Ayurveda or Ayurveda alongside yoga because there are sister sciences and because there's a lot of different aspects of yoga that are actually rooted in Ayurveda. So if you, for example, have heard of a chakra system or energy centers, which is also part of the energetic-based anatomy in yoga, traditional anatomy in yoga, that actually originates from Ayurveda. And understanding it from an Ayurvedic perspective, we, the founders of the school, have found it to be much more effective, so we teach it from that perspective. We also find that having a niche in a style of yoga and understanding your students from a personalized perspective, such as understanding their dosha, which is unique body-mind composition, can help you approach your teaching practice in a little bit more personalized way. Of course, it also helps you in your own journey, your own health and wellness journey as well. So to answer that question, although there is some foundational knowledge that every teacher training should introduce you, it absolutely matters. Every school and style of yoga is going to be different. If you're trying to find the right school or style of yoga for you, we definitely recommend starting from what type of yoga do you like to practice? What type of yoga would you like to learn? Would you like to be introduced to more than one style of yoga, at least from a foundational perspective, so you have a wide range of knowledge? What type of yoga would you like to learn to teach? So starting from there, you can find the school and style of yoga that speaks to you. After that, you can look into a teacher or a school of yoga. So if there's, for example, a teacher that you like, whether you have personally practiced with them before, whether you have found them online or followed them online or like their overall vibe and mood, then that is definitely a very good guideline. If you're kind of open and maybe your favorite yoga teacher is not running a teacher training, or your favorite studio does not have a teacher training, or you want to travel and explore the world and go to a different location, such as Costa Rica, which is a very popular location for teacher trainings and retreats, or India or Bali or Thailand. I'm kind of mentioning the top hottest ones, but there are of course others all throughout the world. Then you can look online and find out a little bit more about the school and the teachers, both or either, to see what speaks to you. And I definitely recommend both contacting them, asking the questions. For example, at Hariom, we're always receiving all kinds of inquiries, like I said, all kinds of questions that can range from practical to more spiritual to more very individual based, and we're here to answer them so you can see whether this speaks to you or not. But after you have done your research, I also, because it can still be overwhelming, it can still be a lot of information out there, you could still be called out to more than one school or teacher or style of yoga, I do definitely always recommend kind of trusting your instincts and trusting your intuition. Us yogis are very much into that. After that, I do recommend looking into kind of the overall mood, because there's a lot of aspects of a yoga training that you might not be familiar with, especially if you've not taken a training before, but that can definitely contribute to the experience. So for example, if you're traveling somewhere, then your training is probably going to be immersion style or retreat style. That means that you're staying somewhere and every day you're rising, you're doing yoga, you're doing meditation, you're doing your workshops, versus a more residential type of training. So let's say if you're staying at home and you're going to your local yoga studio for a teacher training, they will probably be running classes and courses over the weekend or meeting a few times in a month, and in between you're just living your everyday life. Both of those have their advantages and disadvantages. I have spoken about this before. We have written some blog articles about this that you can find on our website. It also depends obviously on practical aspects of whether you can actually take the time off, travel somewhere, whether you actually want to do that, whether you want to stay at home. But when it comes to an immersion style training, well, some of the benefits include the fact that you are getting a retreat experience, a very immersive, a very deep experience, as well as a training in one. So we sometimes see a little bit of a different progress, a little bit of a different transformation in our students when they take, I have personally taught both styles and taken both styles as a student. So when it comes to an immersion or retreat style training, I personally love both teaching and experiencing those because of that retreat aspect, because of that transformation aspect, because you get to kind of stay away from your everyday life. Not that it will not come back, and at least you will have to check in with your family, with your job and so on, and it not be present for you and with you. However, you will still get a chance to retreat, maybe a little bit, take a little bit of a different perspective, a little bit of a different view on your everyday life. And you will get to step away from those things that take a lot of your time and energy, and actually take that time and energy and dedicate it to you. Dedicate it to your yoga, meditation, mindfulness practice, to maybe ground a little bit more, to reflect on your life. Sometimes people are called to a yoga training because they're going through some transition. We've had a lot of students who are in between certain things in life. They're at crossroads, they're in between jobs, they're moving and so on, and they take that time to actually also work on themselves and on whether it's their actual wellness, professional career, or just their personal growth, and that's why they're choosing an immersion style educational course. And there's some special experience in that, there's some special beauty in that. And as someone who has taken, like I said, multiple trainings, I recommend at least once taking an immersion style training, because it definitely does give you a little bit of a different perspective. I took both my 300-hour yoga and Ayurveda training in India in such a way, and also my stand-up paddleboard yoga training here in Costa Rica, and they were both absolutely beautiful. And then after that, after you've looking into what style of yoga you want, what type of experience you want, the teacher and the school, you can also wonder about the type of hours that you might want to take. The most common you will see online is 100 and 200 hours trainings, 300 hours. I would say that's the advanced style. You usually are required to have a 200-hour training to take a 300-hour, or maybe you're taking a 500-hour at once. Just statistically speaking, there's maybe a little bit less offers in those, because 100 and 200 hours are where both you might want to start if you've never taken a yoga teacher training before, or if you've taken a training and you're looking to specialize in something. Let's say I've taken a hatha training, now I want to go more into vinyasa and Ayurveda, or I've taken a yin training and now I'm looking to take an Ashtanga training. Then they become 100 hours or 200 hours, a fantastic choice. We offer both 100, 200 and 300 models at Hari Om, and these days the most common one we offer, and throughout the year you will see the most dates offered for 100-hour teacher training, because that's both a fantastic immersion style training and retreat for those people, those yogis that are interested in taking a training, but they're starting first and foremost doing this for themselves, and maybe they're not 100% sure if they want to teach yoga yet. I can say that I personally was also not sure if I wanted to teach yoga after my first teacher training. Only throughout the training I would say that I really kind of found that spark and that love for the practice. I somehow didn't think it was going to be my career, believe it or not. That was over a decade ago. And 100-hour training at our school, it does lays the good groundwork for all of the yoga history, philosophy, meditation, mindfulness practices, Ayurveda fundamentals. Basically, we introduce the Ayurveda fundamentals course in our 100-hour course, and we do introduce you to both teaching and sequencing, but a student is not going that deeply into it. So you do get the fundamentals if you want to teach yoga, but if you're not sure, you learn about it, but you're mainly learning the practices for your own personal journey. And oftentimes we say that it is very important to be first and foremost a student of yoga before we become a teacher. And I highly recommend being a lifelong student of yoga even after you've had a lot of years of experience teaching, because there's always more to learn. That is something, this beauty of this practice, that maybe you see the tip of an iceberg, and what is underneath the surface is a whole amazing ocean of experience. So there's always something to learn, believe it or not. And being that, having that student forward attitude is very inspiring, and what keeps us also going as yoga teachers. After teaching for many years, I can say I usually take at least one little or big course online or in person every year to stay engaged, stay inspired for my teaching practice and for my personal practice. And another reason why we offer 100 hours is because you can actually take 200 or even 300-hour trainings in modules. So if you cannot take, for example, our teacher training 200 hours is 22 days, but if you cannot take 22 days off, which I completely understand, I know it can be a big investment of time and energy, and of course finances and so on, a lifestyle investment. So then you can actually split up your longer training and longer studies into shorter modules, and you can even sometimes combine different types of modules. So we offer 100 hours and 200 hours. We do have 200 hours in a 22-day format, but we also have 2 11-day formats, so you can take 100 hours and take another 100 hours. Ultimately, you can also opt out into taking a hybrid course, so you can take your teacher training online and in person. These days you will find a lot of online trainings. I would love to mention that before COVID, online trainings were not recognized by Yoga Alliance. Not many people know that, but due to the circumstances and the fact that we couldn't all travel for a while, we couldn't maybe practice in person for a while, they opened it up and they actually allowed certifications. Our school had to go through a special approval process, just like any other Yoga Alliance online school, to be registered, to be able to offer courses online as well. And they kept those credentials, so you can still take a full 1, 2, 300-hour, 500-hour course completely online if you want to. Most of us yoga teachers and those that run yoga schools will recommend to take at least some hours in person, as yoga is a personal practice, and there's so many aspects of the yoga teaching and also yoga practice that are so much more beneficial when taken in person than taken online. All of the asana labs, teaching practical, having somebody actually help you with your own personal alignment, you looking at your students while helping them with their alignment and guiding them through their practice, makes that in-person touch so much more beneficial. If you have any questions about this, let me know. I'm more than happy to answer them. I hope that this guide has been at least a little bit helpful. And like I mentioned at the beginning, I do firmly believe that whatever path you take is the right one for you at that moment. And just having an open mind is the most valuable characteristic that a yoga student can have, because anything can happen during a yoga teacher training, whether it is the people you're with, whether it's the teachers, whether it's the location. Every little and big aspect of it will contribute to the experience, but the most important thing is for you to simply be open to and ready to receive and see what that journey has in store for you. So happy learning, happy yoga, and I hope to see you on the mat soon. Namaste.